Section 5, fluid intake recommendations for athletes. And this is a biggie, because this is what people want to, what do I do for hydration? I know I need to hydrate before, during, and after my workouts and competitions, but what effect does being dehydrated have on me, and how do I go about hydrating? What's the guidelines for that? What's recommended? No question about it that if you are dehydrated, it's definitely going to affect your strength and your speed and your endurance and your energy levels, as well as your cognitive processing, just your ability to think, right? Because we've talked about the fact you've got these cells that have 60% or 70% of their volume in water. And so how much should you drink? We've already mentioned this, anywhere from 10 to 13 cups. This is what's recommended for the general population. We know that athletes are going to need more than this. If we look at athletes before exercise, what we want to do, because we start to look at what to do before, during, and after. Before exercise, the recommendation is 5 to 7 milliliters of fluid per kilogram of body weight, which is 2 to 3 milliliters per pound, 4 hours before. And the reason they give you 4 hours before is they want to make sure that you consume the liquid, you go to the bathroom, and that's the worst thing that could happen is you're consuming fluid before your event, and then during the event you have to go to the bathroom, in the middle of the game. That's never a good thing, right? Or you're doing an endurance event and you have to pull off to the side and find a spot, or go to the porta potty. That becomes a challenge and affects your event. So to give you an example, 5 to 7 milliliters per kilogram of body weight is not that much, really. So let's look. So a 150-pound person at 7 milliliters, and if you convert the 150 pounds into kilograms, that's 476 milliliters of fluid. Remember, there's 240 milliliters per cup. So that's about 2 cups. 2 cups a couple hours before should be fine to keep you and your athletes and your clients hydrated. Now, during exercise, what you're wanting to do, even though you rarely are able to do this, is to match your sweat rate, especially for those of us who are heavy sweaters. During exercise, if there are any of these guidelines that I've talked about that are controversial, this one is the most controversial of the bunch, and this is one I don't necessarily agree with all of it, is that during exercise, it's recommended that you drink 8 to 10 ounces of cold fluid or sports drink. The 8 to 10 ounces, that's a lot. If you're doing that every 15 minutes, that's 40 ounces of fluid. I don't think that we need that much. I recommend anywhere from 6 to 8 maybe might work for individuals. Again, this is where you have to figure out a customized plan for yourself and your athletes to make sure you know how much you need before you're going in. And things may change based on conditions, no question about it. These guidelines that you see oftentimes, they're too high, no question about it. So we'll talk later about how to put together a hydration plan for yourself. We don't need 10 ounces every 15 minutes. And what do you need, sports drink or water? Anything less than an hour, and I think we've alluded to this earlier in a different previous module. Anything less than an hour, you're going to just do water. If you're going to go over an hour, hour and a half, then yes, you definitely want to consider a sports drink. And if you are going an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, you want to start with sports drink from the get-go, right? You don't want to just wait till after an hour, hour and a half, and now I need to start consuming my Gatorade. Okay, you need to do that from the start. But you see this type of thing happen. This is, one of the things you guys need to help steer your clients from, is that they get on the treadmill and they run for 3 miles and they burn their 300 calories right on the treadmill, and then they hop off and consume a Gatorade, especially if they're trying to control their weight. They just, nullified their workout. And I have Gatorade up here, but there's a variety of different sports drinks that work just as well. There are, Powerade. You can make your own, I've been pretty successful at making my own, and it tastes great, and it costs a fraction of what these sports drinks do, that you buy at the store. But you don't need to consume these things unless you're going hour and a half or more, because your glycogen stores aren't really depleted. And so what are you going to do after exercise? One of the best ways to make sure you rehydrate after exercise is monitoring pre and post body weights. How much weight, what did you weigh before, and then what did you weigh after? Usually what they recommend is 2 to 3 cups of fluid for every pound lost. Another way that you can monitor your hydration status is through your urine, right? If you go to the bathroom and it looks like iced tea, that's not a good thing. And then if it looks like lemonade, well, maybe it's not too bad. So there's ways to monitor hydration without the scale, for sure. Here's a good question. Does coffee, tea, and sports drink or soft drinks cause dehydration? And I looked this up. I'm involved with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics as a registered dietitian, and they have what's called the Evidence Library. And this is an older question from 2007, but it's a good question. Does caffeine and all these drinks dehydrate you? And what they found as they looked at all this research is that unless you consuming up to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight doesn't impact your hydration status. You can do the math on this, but this is easily a couple of cups of coffee. So feel good about consuming your coffee or your soft drinks as a means of staying hydrated, and don't have to worry about becoming dehydrated unless you're consuming an extreme amount of these products with caffeine in them. This wraps up the module on the nutrition guidelines and recommendations. In our next module, we'll look at the training diet. So this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty about specifics on what we're going to do before, during, and after exercise.